Hello everyone, this is Christine from Thoughtful English LLC, where we provide classes, conversation, and caring for the English language learner. Welcome to this lesson on when to pronounce the ED as a T sound in English verbs that are regular in the past tense. And don't forget to like and subscribe to receive other helpful video notifications in the future. Many of my English language students have asked me, when do I pronounce the ED as a T sound with the past form of a verb in English? This can be confusing for the English language learner because English language natives make this pronunciation automatically with the verbs that are correct for a T sound in the past tense. It also may seem a little bit strange that a word that ends in a D would actually be pronounced as though it ends in a T. Now, if English is not your first language, don't worry. There is a way to understand this concept and to make it a little bit simpler to use. First, let's look at the rules. You may already know that there are actually 3 ways to pronounce the ED ending in past tense verbs. But the way that you pronounce the ED depends on the verb that you are using. If the base verb ends in a D or a T, then the ED is actually pronounced as a separate syllable. This was explained in our last video, and I am providing the link for you here because that is not the rule that we are covering in this lesson. However, it may be good for you to go back and watch this video to cover this concept because it is a very good and easy starting point for talking about the ED pronunciation with past tense verbs that are regular in the past pronunciation in English. Moving on to the second rule, if the final sound of the base verb is voiced, the ED is pronounced like a D. Now that seems like it should be very easy to remember because the D is actually used in the spelling of the ED ending. But we are not covering that rule in this lesson. We will cover this in our next video. Rule number 3 is that if the final sound of the base verb is voiceless, the ED is pronounced like a T. This is today's lesson. Why are we learning about the voiceless sounds before the voiced sounds? The reason is there are only 9 of them. That's right, there are 9 voiceless sounds, and these are ch, h, k, f, p, s, sh, t, and th. Why are these sounds called voiceless? Well, before we explain that, let's start with an example to show us what this means. Let's take a look at the letter K as a final sound, which is actually pronounced K. Here is our fun example sentence. Yesterday, I kayaked with my dog. In this example sentence, the final letter of the base verb is a K. And as you can see from our arrow, the type of boat that is shown in the photo is actually called a kayak. So because a kayak is a type of boat, to kayak is a verb, which means to use the type of boat that is called a kayak. If you're listening carefully, you can hear that the pronunciation of kayaked actually sounds like a T sound. So the voiceless pronunciation of this fun example sentence is, yesterday I kayaked with my dog. But we still have not answered the questions, why are these called voiceless consonant sounds? And why do verbs with these voiceless endings sound as though they end in a T? The answer has to do with the way that human beings produce sound when they are speaking. Listen to our example sentence again. Yesterday, I kayaked with my dog. If you notice the green arrow in the picture, it is pointing to the woman's throat. Inside the throat of every person, there are vocal cords. If this were a voiced sound, the vocal cords would be vibrating, and that means making very small movements inside of her throat when she produced the sound. But they are not doing that because this is a voiceless sound. Now, this might sound like a lot of science, but if you want to understand better how vocal cords work inside the human throat when they are speaking, simply do a Google search on vocal cords and you will find a lot of information online. But what is important for us to remember? We really only need to remember that when we are producing ed past tense endings for voiceless verbs, that our vocal cords are going to naturally flow into a T sound. This is just the way that our bodies help us to pronounce words more easily and naturally. As a speaker of English, nobody expects you to walk around with 2 fingers on your throat trying to feel whether or not your vocal cords are producing vibrations. It, of course, makes a lot more sense to simply familiarize yourself with the voiceless endings that may appear in past tense verbs in English. So, one thing that we can think about right now is what is most important to remember. And of course, that is that there are only 9 of those voiceless sounds. If we can familiarize ourselves with those 9 sounds, then that will help us to remember that the 9 sounds that use the T sound with the ED are going to be set apart from all the other sounds which use a D for the ED ending, except, of course, those verbs that end in a D or a T in the base verb. And as mentioned before, that concept is explained in a different video. That's it. So, all we need to remind ourselves of is that there are 9 voiceless sounds that we have to keep in mind and try to remember. And the easiest way to remember these sounds is to try to keep it fun. You could make up some example sentences that are meaningful to you. Try some. For example, I touched my little dog on his nose. Touched. I stopped at the store to buy my dog a bone. Stopped. I wished to have 10 more dogs. Wished. These sentences are fun and personal for me, but you might want to come up with entirely different ideas and use them in your example sentences. Whatever is most meaningful for you personally is going to be most memorable. Well, that's it. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found this to be helpful. Please feel free to contact Thoughtful English LLC if you are interested in personalized English classes via Zoom.